Can you turn me up a little bit? Okay. It's going to be easier for him to turn me up than for me to speak louder.
It's too noisy. Can you guys even hear me? It's like we're at a county fair. It's like really.
Yeah.
There just needs to be like cow sounds and stuff.
Yeah. Can you supply the cow sounds now? There we go.
I can barely hear your cow sounds. It's that bad.
Yeah. Well, it'll. This is part of the learning curve, and next year we're going to have something cooler. So.
It should be underground.
It'll be yeah, sure, okay.
Literally like underground.
Under the ground, sure. Like in a garage.
An underground garage.
Yeah, there is one right over there. So, anyway, so for those of you who don't know, this is Jhonen Vasquez.
Woo!
He's created your favorite stuff. So.
Hey, there's Megan. Megan, I don't want to be up here alone. You want to talk about inking? Megan Lawton, inker in the Zoom comic, is over there. Oh, somebody help me.
all of Jhonen's friends have abandoned him.
Hey! How you doing? This is Megan Lawton, inker on the Zoom comic. Woo! But not future artist on it.
No.
Right. We offered her the job of like doing the artwork, and she's like, "No, I'm too busy." What are you doing instead? What's better than that?
Trying.
What's possibly better than drawing Zim comics?
I'm trying to break into the animation industry.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
You were doing stuff at Pixar.
Yeah, but my Pixar. I was interning at Pixar, and that ended.
Now we're just talking, Dan.
That's fine.
Now we're just talking.
Why don't you just interview her for a little while?
I can interview her because I can't say anything about me that you guys haven't heard before. I like. Does anyone know anything about me that they haven't heard before yet? Yeah. See, I'm bored. I'm bored of me. I'm bored of me. So Megan.
Yes.
What are you all about? Like every single thing possible about you.
That's a big question. I don't know. What do people want to know?
Are you done inking? Are you done inking on the comic?
No, I have one more.
One more.
Yeah.
After issue 5, who's seen the Zen comic? Yeah. It looks good, right? Like that's a lot of it is Megan.
Yeah, I make it look pretty.
Yeah. Aaron, the artist, he can barely use his hands. So it's just like...
I thought he had lobster claws.
Yeah. You have to hold the paper under him, and he just kind of goes... And then you, like, kind of... And then she goes over the scribbles and makes it look like a thing that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah.
So...
Sounds about right.
Right? Actually, no, Aaron's stuff is really, like... Do you wish it was looser? Because it's pretty tight.
It's really tight. I was actually expecting when I first started getting issues, I thought it would be a lot looser than it was.
That makes it easier for you?
It makes it a lot easier for me, but...
What do you do when you're inking? Like, because it's not... I mean, there's definitely a creative aspect to it, but for the most part, do you just kind of like, is it like a Zen thing where you're just sort of...
Yeah, it's like kind of an autopilot thing.
You're listening to music?
Yeah, I just put on music and I watch a lot of X-Files and I just...
Can you listen to me? Like, I can't, when I'm writing, I can't listen to anything that has words. It always has to be instrumental stuff. When I'm drawing, penciling, it still can't have words. It's usually instrumental. Only when I'm inking can I like listen to podcasts or watch movies and stuff.
I find actually the best background noise for drawing is like Food Network reruns. Like if you watch Chopped and Cut Throat Kitchen, like that's the stuff to do art to.
That sounds so awful to me.
But that's why, because you don't have to pay attention.
Yeah, but I mean there are plenty of better things to not pay attention to.
I guess. I like the Food Network.
The Food Network. Yeah, honestly, nothing planned up here. Nothing planned. So at some point, maybe we'll take questions, but we're going to try and avoid that because I've never heard a good question. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Why don't we start with that?
I think there are good questions. I'm not saying that there aren't ones, but there's something about when it's time for someone to actually ask the question that their brain's just like, Dad, what's your favorite tree? And then you're just like, my favorite tree is the... See, my brain just, I don't know.
correct answer is the large.
Yes, the large. The large.
So let's go with that then. What would you constitute as a good question? Like what would you, if you could ask somebody?
I've just been doing this a long time, and I think I've gotten a lot of the same questions. I think the worst question is, where do you get your ideas from? Like that's the worst question you could ask.
Ideas from, obviously.
Yeah, I usually just point to someone, like that guy. He gives me my ideas, you know, and then he winks. You know, he's got like the trench coat. Yeah, that's a bad one. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know who thinks they have a good question. Oh my God, and you don't feel any pressure at all. Okay, that's confidence. What's your question? Oh man, I can't hear you at all. You might want to come up here and like, we'll just whisper it. They won't. Oh, he's got a mic.
Question mark. Aside from all the comic stuff you're getting into, what's something you haven't done yet that you want to do in the future?
What's something that I haven't done yet that I want to do in the future?
Acting, walking dogs.
No, I don't want to be an
pottery,
actor. That's like, actors are awful people. I want to be, I'd love to direct film. I'd love to do live action stuff. Just different ways of telling stories. I'd love to do a video game. I just finished playing Soma, and I'm like super inspired by how people tell a video game and dole out the information and have you participate in it versus what I do, which is tell you a story. I would love to be part of something where you're playing a story. Video games are just a huge part of my life, almost to the point of being incredibly destructive to my life. But I have to do it. Even if I don't have time for them, I always hear people be like, oh yeah, because I had friends who were like big gamers in my life, who were like, yeah, I don't really have time anymore, I've got the baby, and I've got like, you know, the marriage, and I'd be like, fuck the baby, you know, like how do you not find the time? No, don't physically fuck the baby, I'm talking like, just don't do that, but, you know, to hell with the baby, you know, for a while. You can put it on the sofa, and it's not going to die immediately because you're ignoring it to play video games for like 5 hours. Yeah, I'd love to do all that sort of stuff, and everything that I want to do just usually has to do with storytelling. I also want to build an FPV quadrocopter setup.
What the hell is that?
What do you want to do? Besides what you're doing now, what have you not done that you want to ultimately do?
Oh, I'd like to storyboard on an actual TV show and not like just apply for jobs.
Do you have ideas for your own TV show? Like, is your dream to storyboard for someone else's show or to have your own show?
To have my own show.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't shoot first. My dream is to someday assist somebody.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Just
Right.
working for other people, not
Do you have
using
stuff?
any thought in my own brain.
Do you have ideas that you know would be your first big pitch?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Got some things that I'm thinking about. Got a couple characters that I'm messing around with on Instagram for Inktober. It's a bunch of like asshole teenage monster children, and they like skateboard
So
around
children.
and like teenagers.
Yeah.
I guess they're children.
That's true. I've seen those. Yeah.
Yeah, and they just try to figure out a story for them.
Does the story stuff come harder for you, like than the visual stuff? I've given up on thinking I'm a decent artist. I think I have a lot more fun, and I'm a way more successful writer who likes to draw. But
I think visuals come a lot easier for me
Yeah.
than coming up with a story, but it's a fun challenge figuring out stories. I like it a lot. It's like why I got into storyboarding.
yeah, I don't think I'd be good at anything else. I don't think I would. I always think about how in some version of society where it's purely about survival, like some post-apocalyptic horror escape, how utterly pointless my current existence is. I'd be useless. I can't build things. I can't grow food. I would be one of the first people. I'd be like the guy on the chain being dragged around by like Humongous, you know? I would have nothing, no place in a world that depends on actual functional human beings. I'd be like, I can tell you a story, and they're like, you know, just like,
People like bards. Sometimes.
Yeah, but even like a bard implies a world
you know how to play an
there's a
instrument?
certain amount of like leisure time versus we gotta survive the zombies that are just around the corner.
That's true.
Yeah, no, I there's like in a world of genuine horror, I would have no place telling people spooky stories. You know.
Yeah.
Who has another question? See, you had the only good question. Someone has to have a decent one. Oh, yes, back there.
Come on up here. Anybody with a question?
If you could travel to any point in time, where would you go and what would you do?
I would love to travel to the end of everything and see what it looks like. Yeah, the end of everything has always been one of my favorite things in stories. You know, the restaurant at the end of the universe, or that thing in Doctor Who, with, you know, which is very, very Hitchhiker's Guide, actually. What did I read? I read some. I don't know. I love imagining a world where everything has already happened, everything is already wound down, and there must be something very, very pretty about that. I guess you could go to the beginning of everything too, and it'd look kind of the same, and there'd be all that potential.
Probably less spaceships.
Yeah, but at the end of everything, I don't know if there'd even be spaceships. Maybe there'd just be dead, empty spaceships. But yeah.
So, given that, let me ask you a question about your writing. When you start with something, when you sit down to write a story, are you one of those guys that starts at the end?
No.
Like or you start, where do you start?
I usually start with a joke, and then a few years later, the joke turns into an actual story. Almost everything started off as me hanging out with friends going, wouldn't it be funny if like there was this guy and then this thing happened, and then somewhere down the road I'm like, hey, what if that thing did happen to that guy? And then it turns into an actual story, which I actually think is kind of pretty. Everything starts with something that's not serious. Even if it's a story that's horrible and not funny at all, I like the idea of it starting off with a joke. I think everything has a joke inside of it. Everything is inherently stupid and absurd. Even though serious things, watching your friends be completely destroyed over something that you're just looking at them going, why are you so upset about something so fucking stupid? And then making stories about people who are upset about something that is just so fucking stupid, but giving it all the seriousness that you can. Yeah, and then
Would those meanwhile stories be an example of something that started as a joke?
Yeah, a lot of the meanwhiles came from actual things that I saw in real life. Like the kid who was saying goodbye to his mom, who couldn't let go of his mom in the Johnny comic. I actually saw a kid who was... I was spending the night at a friend's house, and there was a little kid. I could hear him outside. It was morning, and he was like, bye, Mom, I love you. She was going to work. And she was like, bye, honey, I love you. And it just kept going on. He was like, bye, Mom, I love you. And getting more and more upset, and I'm just like, yeah, it's funny. And he was crying because she was pulling away, and he's chasing after the car, like, suddenly it was like frantic, like, oh my God, Mom, don't leave. And it was the funniest thing in the world to me because it was just, it was so sad. To him, it was not funny, but to anyone watching, it was just hilarious. It was like the chase from, you know, the T-1000 chasing them and like sticking to the car, and that turned into a comic. That's how comics happen. That's where my ideas come from. Crying children. Yeah. Wait, so after issue 5 you're actually done? So
Yeah, that's it.
yeah, a lot of people are leaving after issue 5. Will you guys still read the Zim comics if
We all leave.
If we all leave, but someone's still making them? I mean, I'd be curious. Suddenly I would be, I think, more interested than in stuff that I know what's happening. I think I want to see... I'd love to see people take different approaches to it.
Isn't Casey Green doing one of them?
Casey Green's doing issue 6. And then I think Dave Crossland's going to be doing a couple of issues. But it's exciting. I'm curious to see what people... I mean, I hope it's not like looking at people's versions of Zim on Tumblr where they're like making out all the time. You know? It's just boring. It's like, oh, look at them make out and they think they're being like so like, woo! And they're like, no, that's really boring at this point. It's like they don't get it, or they just, it doesn't matter what the show is. It's like, two more people to have doing it. As I wonder, like, these people, if they watch, like, new cartoons, and they're like, oh, this is a really good show. Like, oh my god, I love these characters. And then at some point they're like, I'm gonna make them fuck. Like, if that's a good show to them, like, do they like shows where characters don't inspire them to want to, like, draw them making out? Like, did you do that? You're younger than me, so can you relate to drawing characters making out and shit?
I can't. Like,
yeah.
I never did that. I always thought it was really weird. Like, because I was really...
But apparently it's not that weird, because a lot of people do it, and it's fascinating to a lot of people. Is it people working through, like, their issues?
I have no idea.
Is it like a control thing? Like,
maybe.
They're terrified of actual physical, of like a world where there is actual physical intimacy, so they're like somehow coping with it by controlling it through like Zim and Dib.
Going to town.
Yeah, like, oh man, you got an alien space weenie. I want to put that in my face. You know, because that's you see a lot of like Zimdick. He doesn't have one, but they're like, well, he doesn't need one. They don't procreate sexually, but to them they're like, what's missing is a space weenie. And I wonder if they're drawing, because you know they're sitting there on their Cintiq, and there's always the point where they're drawing the space weenie, and are they like turned on? Yeah, you think they're turned on drawing the space weenie? Oh God, I wish I had different fans, man. Be honest, has anyone here drawn Zim's space weenie? Anyone? There are liars here. I know there are liars here. I don't know how we got onto that.
Yeah, does anybody have a question you could save us with? It's going to be a weenie, I'm pretty sure.
She's like, about Zim's space weenie.
Well, actually, like...
Oh, yeah.
So I'm really kind of curious because, yeah, I mean, the internet is a great place because you can see so much...
The internet's an awful place.
Yeah, it depends upon how many drinks you've had. But, like, in terms of fanfic that you've seen or things around the internet, I guess what is the best thing that you've seen and what is the absolute worst? Like, you couldn't go to bed, you were just gnashing your teeth at night.
Oh, no, I don't give that kind of shit.
Oh, okay.
I like, there's me looking, like, at stuff online and going, what's this? Or, oh god, look, there's that again. And then I click to the next page of whatever, and I forgot. I'm not thinking about it anymore. I'm not going to bed going, how dare they draw them making out? Oh! I don't care like that. Fanfic, I haven't really read that much. I've seen a little bit of it, and I've never seen anything good. People don't get it. It's their version of the thing, and I look at it and go, that's not the thing. That's not Zim. That's not Invader Zim. That's some weird, some other universe, and there are characters in it named Zim and Dib, but they're not acting or talking like the characters, so, you know, I don't think I've ever seen anything good. In terms of fan art, there's amazing stuff. Sometimes there's space weenies involved, but it's like, damn, that is a really nicely drawn space dick, you know, like I've seen, I think there are people that I've seen that I would actually contact about, like, I actually have, I've pointed at Oni, I'm like, hey, this person's actually really good, see if they want to do a comic, because, you know, we need to fill pages, and also there are some incredibly talented people out there wasting their time, but in some cases that time's not wasted because, you know, I'm like, this is actually really good.
I mean, I spent a lot of time growing up drawing Invader Zim fan art, and now I get to work on Invader Zim because of it.
Yeah. Because
it works out,
like,
yeah.
You met...
Because I met Aaron at Comic-Con, and we just kind of kept talking at conventions and stuff, and he was like, hey, you draw good lines.
Yeah, I get people that still come up and they ask, how do I break into comics or animation? And
Be nice to people.
And have work that people can see, put it online. Like, it's the easiest thing. So many of the people that I've worked with are people that I'm like, hey, I like this guy's stuff, and pointed them towards, or pointed whoever I'm working with towards their Tumblr or their Instagram, and their artwork's on there. And yeah, there's no like one way in, but the internet is like one of the greatest places to just, if you have decent work, put your stuff up there. Or if you don't have decent work, someone with no taste might like your work, and they happen to be like working on something big and professional, and yeah.
Yeah, but I hear stories all the time about people getting just flipped up from Tumblr.
Yeah.
And they get jobs in the industry for it. So it's just make art, show it to everybody you can.
Yeah, if you're going to keep your art a secret, then why are you looking for a job in art anyways, right? If the idea is to do something people will see, so let people see it.
Yeah.
It's always frustrating from this point of someone who looks at people's art when they don't want to let go of their portfolio or want to make excuses the minute they hand it to you. So you should be proud of your work.
Yeah.
No matter how bad it might be.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously, like I'm more comfortable around people who don't think that they're like hot shit. But it doesn't stop, like, I know, like, there are people who think they're the greatest thing in the world, there are people who don't think they're the greatest thing in the world, but they're not embarrassed to get their stuff out there. And that's the most important thing, have visible work. Yeah, like, I don't really have the best story at all in terms of how I broke into it. I just brought stuff literally to Dan. I didn't, I kind of thought, no, I didn't think I was hot shit. I was just like, I just thought the stuff was so stupid that maybe someone else would think it was stupid enough in a funny way.
So he thought of me.
Yeah, and he thought it was stupid enough in a way that people might think was also interesting. But yeah, just put your stuff online. If
you read the comics I published, a lot of them are pretty stupid. So. Milk and cheese is certainly not Shakespeare.
Almost exclusively stupid comics.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have any more questions out there? Or?
Who has a question?
Is it weird knowing that a lot of the talent currently working on animation are inspired by you? Rebecca Sugar, who does Steven Universe, started off doing Zim fan art.
Yeah.
Is it weird, like, knowing you have a legacy?
I mean, when you put it that way, I feel uncomfortable. Yeah. But no, I don't think I feel a whole lot. I don't sit around. I mean, it is weird to think about if I were to sit and think about it, but I don't. It just feels very natural to me. It's not natural, of course. I've been inspired people. It's like, I think it's really nice. I don't think it's weird. I mean, when I met Rebecca, and she told me that she was a fan way back in the day, I was like, oh, that's really nice. I wasn't like, I don't really think too much about time passing, even though a lot of time has passed since I've started doing stuff, and a lot of the people who are doing stuff now that are incredibly well known, like Penn, a lot of people that I know are, a little bit younger than me, like Penn, friends of mine who are now like, I can't even imagine the kind of like hugeness that is Adventure Time. That is like a whole other thing, that kind of mass appeal. I don't even think he imagined it when he was doing it either, but it is, it is a strange thing to think that these people were like in high school or in elementary school sometimes. You weren't even born, right? Like, you weren't born?
No, I was 11 when Invader was on the air.
Right, so when I was doing Johnny, you were nothing.
Yeah, I was
probably.
Not alive.
Well, maybe not nothingness, but close to nothingness.
Time is hard.
Yeah, it's weird to think about how much time has passed and what happens in that time. There are people now who are just doing amazing stuff, and they'll say that they were inspired by Invader Zim, and I'm just like, yeah, that's neat, because I'll think about who I was inspired by, and to think that I'm like that person is pretty cool. You think that what you do, it's cool to think that, like, because I sit around thinking, like I said, how utterly pointless my existence is, really. I make up stories, and I hope that people like those stories, and to think that I inspired someone to be equally or more pointless than I am is really neat. There's something beautiful about people devoting their lives to something that is so frivolous. And I mean that. I love it. Because everything is so stupid. And I don't know. I don't really have the words for it. But yeah, it is weird to an extent. But I'm not sitting around like paralyzed by, oh, this is so weird.
Hi, Alan.
Yes.
So working in the industry and also working as a independent creator, what's more enjoyable for you? Being your own boss on a project or being someone else's boss on a project?
Oh man. I love being my own boss. If there are other people involved, I would prefer to boss them around. But like right now, I'm back in animation and I am a co-boss. And that's been very difficult. And it's also been responsible for some of the greatest stuff, some of the neatest stuff has come up from the collaboration. But there's not a day that goes by when I don't think, God, I wish I was doing this alone. But I have to keep reminding myself that, you know, I'll look at something and go, but I wouldn't have done this if this other person weren't involved. My partner on the show is Jenny Goldberg, and we are not an easy pairing. But the thing that we're working on is so much bigger than what Zim could have ever been. We've been in development for, it feels like 100 years, and I hope that all this work goes to something. But the difference between like working in comics and animation is comics is incredibly, when I'm doing it, incredibly lonely. It's very isolating, which helps for me, you know, it's just me in my own head. And if I'm working on something, I'm happy when I look at what I've done for the course of the day and go, look what I did. This is proof of my existence for the day, good or bad. And no one, and it's good or bad because of my success or failure on it. It's all me. It sucks because I made it suck. It's good because I think I made it good, versus working with a bunch of people, you hope that anything good comes out of it because there's so much working to make it bad and to make it incredibly, you know, mundane and like everything else that you've seen. There are people who think they're helping you who are arguing to make it what you think is less special, and that's horrible. And they don't know it because to them they're doing the good thing, and to you you're doing the good thing, and it's incredible that anything gets made. Even when I see shitty movies or awful cartoons, I'm like, wow, that really sucked, but it's good that they got it made. It's amazing that they got this made. Most people have no clue what goes into making, like I'm making a cartoon. You know, think of any cartoon, however much you like it. It's a cartoon, it's stupid, whatever. It's little characters and they're goofy. I've been in development for coming up on 4 years. 4 years of my life, which is absurd. And you get in these arguments and you're in meetings with people who don't watch cartoons, and they're like, these big board meetings, and they're asking you to defend this or that, and you're just like in awe. You're just like in awe. You're like, oh my God, this is my life. I'm arguing over whether or not a character looks enough like a girl or not. Like having to, it's like, who cares if she looks like, people want her to look more like a girl because she's a girl. And like that's actually been an argument. Our main character in this thing, just is, you know, kind of fairly androgynous looking. She's just a little girl. She's just doesn't really care about fashion, or she doesn't wear pigtails or wear pink or anything. It's just, but you find yourself in meetings about these things and you're just like, who cares? Can that be my answer? Who cares? I don't care. Let's see if people like it, you know? Yeah, it sounds more like I like working in comics. No, they're both amazing when you can actually get something made in the way that you like. So, yeah, there's good and there's bad for both of them. How long is this? Half an hour.
We're going to wrap it up.
Who has a half an hour question?
That was almost a half an hour question.
Anybody? All right. What's the last movie you saw? We're just gonna talk about movies now because that's what I give a shit about: movies and video games.
The last movie I saw was Hotel Transylvania, the first one.
How was that?
I liked it, but I had a hard time getting into it because I hate Adam Sandler so much.
Yeah, me too. I saw the first one. Really didn't like it. Well, you know what? No.
I thought there were some cute ideas, and
I
like,
love that they.
the world was really awesome.
I love the animation.
Yeah,
I
so
love
good.
that too. But one of the things that I hate so much about, like,
It's like a real cartoon.
yes, something about theatrical animation versus TV animation. Theatrical animation can be done with live action actors because they don't play with the physicality. There's no elasticity. There's no impossibility in the movement. Like you see, like a Pixar movie, they move like the materials that they're made of. Woody moves like the physical thing that he is. There's not stretching. There's not Warner Brothers-y weirdness. You know what one of the first movies that made me go, oh my god, this moves like a cartoon was Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
That is such a good movie.
That was
The animation
amazing.
that is crazy.
When the mayor guy is, like trying to like convince him to keep the machines, and he's coming in from the side, and he retracts, and he comes in from this side, and then he
There's
comes
that
in from
one
the
shot
top
where
of the
there's like
frame. I mean,
Finn
that's
is looking into the distance, and like he has like one hand come in, one hand come in, and then like a third hand comes in from the bottom. It's so great. Why don't more movies do that?
because there's someone saying don't do that.
They should
There's definitely someone going, no, this is too weird, and that's such bullshit. It's like they think people aren't going to be able to handle it, or they're going to think it's too child or too weird.
Yeah.
Like in the sequel, Cloudy 2, the Steve Jobs guy who like every hand gesture was like so bizarre. It was beautiful. I love that stuff. And Hotel Transylvania had like really silly like walk cycles where it was like really nicely done stuff. Like that stuff keeps my brain active because even if the movie's terrible, I'm like, oh my
You're
god,
still having fun watching.
Yeah, that's an awesome walk cycle, or the way he's moving his hands. Like I love How to Train Your Dragon. The second one, not so much. It's really pretty, but they are just people. They're not. There's nothing about it that needs to be a cartoon.
No.
Which is too bad. Just make it a live action movie. No, a bit weird. Too much CG.
We have a question here. We got 1 minute here.
We got 2 questions. Oh, 3 questions.
I guess on that same vein, what is if you could pick like 1 or 2 really weird things you wanted to do, either on the animated version of Zim or anything else you've done that you didn't get away with? Something that was just shut down that you really wanted in there.
Something that I didn't get away with, like on Zim?
Or anything you've done. Just something that you're like, man, I really wish this hadn't gotten shut down, but I guess everyone else thought it was too weird.
No, you know what? Because I'm looking at it from now, and I look at how, I've said this before, a lot of the stuff that we tried to get away with and then had to change, we were really kind of like smartasses in how we changed stuff to like appease notes. So we ended up making things worse in a way that still addressed, and that's, in a lot of ways I look at Zim and I wish we had a little bit more restraint, because we were too focused on addressing the note in a way that was funny at the time, but then I look at it now and I'm like, man, that's just weird now. No one knows what this means. They're just seeing a weird thing and it doesn't really help the story. Which I've been doing a lot of like work on with the comics, where I'll get a script, Eric will turn in a script and he'll just be like, and then Zim does this and Kurt does that, and I'm like, no, that's too weird for the sake of being weird, when I want it should focus on being funny, but still having it be in service of the story. Whereas on Zim, there was just a lot of weird shit, where we were like, isn't this weird? And then I watch it years later and I'm like, oh my god, that's just weird. And it's funny that it's so weird, but it's kind of like distracting. And there are a few moments where I thought it was actually funny, like Higgins flying to address the note that we see that he's not dead. So now he's flying because he's so not dead that he's flying. And how much healthier can you get than flying? Whereas before, he couldn't fly. and the snowman shoving a little kid under the table, which was in response to a note. That's one of the ones that I talk about the most. Is we got a note about why is Zim's suit acting the way that it does. And, I'm in these meetings and Zim is inside of a Santa Claus suit that's malfunctioning, and it's kind of taking over his mind and taking over the body. And the executives were asking, well, we really need to be clear why the suit is doing this. How does the suit function so we know why it's doing what it is? And my argument is no one's gonna give a shit. The suit's malfunctioning, that's all we have to explain. That's it, the suit's malfunctioning, that's it. And so they needed that addressed. So there was that little interlude with the snowman talking to all those little kids, and one of the little kids basically asked, almost note for note, we just copy and pasted their notes and put them in the kid's dialogue, and I did that little kid's voice in this horrible British accent. And he's asking, why is the suit behaving like this? How, what does Zim have to gain and to lose by this and that? And that's how we address the note. A little kid asks the snowman, and the snowman basically just stares at him blankly and grabs the kid, shoves him under the bed. And that was towards the end of, I think that might have been the last episode we produced. So their response to that when we said, here's our fix, was just kind of like, whatever. You guys are canceled, just do whatever the fuck, whatever. And we're like, yeah. And that ended up in the actual episode. Because they were just tired of us going, just let us do it. It's gonna be funny, or it's not gonna be funny. That's the only, we never really tried to get away with anything that was honestly offensive. We were very aware of, we're making a kid's show, but I remember being a kid and I want to make a show for the kid that I was, and not what you think kids can handle or not handle. And so we had a lot of moments like that where we addressed a note with something that was we were being assholes. And sometimes that worked for the show, sometimes I think it was weird, too weird and too distracting. But there wasn't really a whole lot that we didn't get away with. It just got turned into something weirder. Yeah.
Hello? Yeah. Hi. So I was wondering how we can, as viewers or as an audience, better support your vision versus someone who may moderate that vision.
Just never question me. Don't do anything that I don't want you to do. Everything, even if I'm this is a terrible thing I've done. I'm sorry. You should be no, you did a good job. Watch stuff, don't pirate my work. I don't know. That's a weird question. When I do stuff, when it's out there, I love that people still love it. I love that the Zim comic is doing as well as it is. I'm amazed. After all this time, that the Zim comic is one of the top selling things. That's weird to me. You were asking about what makes me feel weird is, Dan was telling me how people are buying Johnny comics again. And I'm like, who doesn't have it already? That's weird to me. I mean, I don't think I'm all that jaded in terms of my stuff being out there. I was at a comic shop recently, taking pictures of the Zim comic on the shelves, feeling all warm and fuzzy, because I'm for the longest time, anything of mine was relegated to the spooky comics section. And I'd be looking at all the other comics going, dude, I fucking hate these comics. I don't want to be associated with this shit. when my comic first came out with slave labor, my first issue with Johnny, and I went to the comic shop. I was in some shop in San Francisco. I was so proud because I was like, look, there it is next to like Love and Rockets and all these things that are like, I was like, oh my God, I'm like one of these guys now. I'm one of these people. I'm just another comic out there. And then I went through that bad patch where I was like, I'm one of these comics. And I didn't relate too much to the people who were like only got comics because they were going to like fucking Hot Topic and shit. Like that depressed the hell out of me. And everyone sort of like puts you in this place where you're like, oh, you're so Hot Topic, and I'm like, fuck you. I've never even, I don't. No, I'm sure plenty of people here have shopped at Hot Topic. It just was never my thing. It's just not my thing. So seeing that Zim comic on a shelf with everything else is an awesome feeling. I don't even know what the question was. What was the question? Who asked the last question?
I was just trying to figure out like how we as viewers can better support you in making more of what you want to make.
As viewers, just watch the stuff. Just watch the stuff. Maybe talk about it. I think some of like I think the biggest audience for me is also one of the quietest. So there are a lot of people that just kind of like associate, oh, I don't want to say that I like his stuff because those people like his stuff, and those people usually being people that are like horrible weirdos or something. Alien space weenie people. You know?
But the more you talk about it, then like other people are gonna want to talk about it too. Like I started talking about it when I got the job, and I was like, I know what kind of stigma that's like that comes with, and
yes.
So I started talking about it again, and so there were a couple people who were like, oh, Invader Zim, whatever, like
right.
Hot Topic, and I was like,
yeah,
no,
but they're not talking
screw
about
you.
the show. They're talking about
You're
the
talking
people.
about Hot Topic.
Yeah, they're
like,
talking about that. I'm like,
just read it. But then the more I talked about it,
although
the more my friends who might have been more embarrassed about it also started talking about it. So it's just talk
has
about
there
it.
ever been anything that you were like, people who are like, oh, I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I like this or that. I'm like, you're a fucking piece of shit. Like, why would you be embarrassed to, like, if you like a thing, I don't care how crappy the thing is that you like the fucking thing. There's plenty of stuff that I like that I think a lot of people would be like ashamed of, but it's like my life. Why would I be quiet about it? I'm trying to think of something right now, but I'm like, I actually can't because I don't associate anything of the stuff that I like with being something that I'm ashamed of or people should be ashamed of. No, I don't know. What is something that I should be ashamed of, you think, that I like, that you hate? This is my friend here. So this is someone that actually knows me. There's plenty of stuff that I like that you're like, I can't believe he likes that. Yeah, see? Yeah.
Guilty pleasures are stupid, just like things. And talk about it.
Oh, yes.
How did you like Soma?
Soma. I loved it. For a second I thought you were asking about Soba. I love Soba too, but no, I loved it. I was a little bit, I was not a big like Amnesia fan, and I really wasn't a Machine for Pigs fan. It's just not my kind of scary. But Soma had the existentialist horror thing that the scariest shit was some of the implied horror in that game. The question of like who you are you still you if you're a sentient copy of who you used to be 3 iterations down, and it really, really creepy stuff. Like that game got to me. It is the perfect game for me. It was just a beautiful sense of isolation, loneliness. There were definitely the monster moments of like, oh, there's something in the room. I can't look at it because if you look at it, it gets stronger and it will kill you. Those were spooky moments. I like that stuff, but the story was fantastic. There's definitely a very effective use of tedium, walking around in an empty research station and just going through cabinets, kind of piecing together the world and the story. Yeah, I loved it. I tweeted to the developers after I was like, oh my god, thank you for making this, because this is like, that stuff is so inspiring. What did I just, there was something else that was really similar to it that I was playing, but yeah, science fiction, horror stuff is, that sits right up my alley. Is this, well, you're just standing there. That's a weird place to stand.
We usually queue up.
Like, this is a good place to stand.
Sorry again, this panel a really stupid ass question, but and you probably heard it a billion times, but I want to hear about the worst experience you had working in either comics or animation.
Worst experience I had working in comics or animation, I would say working in animation. Is awful. You have to really love what you're going through hell for. That's what it is. It's hell. It's awful. It's an awful experience. You know, but I love the idea. That's what it is. They trap you. That's how they get you to work on this stuff. Because they have to make sure that you really give a shit. You're like, oh my god, I really want to see this thing get made. I think it's like an awesome idea. I want to see these characters come to life. Everything else around it is hideous. Hideous. Last couple of years, I go visit my friends who are working on things who, it was their lives. They loved it. I go visit Brian when he was working on Korra. He just looked like, you know, photographs of like soldiers back from war. He's just like, you know? I'm like, hey, I visit him at Nickelodeon. I'm like, hey, what's up? I haven't seen you forever. He's like, just dark circles under his eyes, and I'd look at that and be like, oh my god, I'm trying to get back into that, you know? It's not smart. You have to be dumb to want to do it. You know, there's individual experiences, like, you can't help but up against personalities, and that's awful. You get in arguments with friends, friendships end, people die, and it gets less and less fun. The more and more you want it to be the way you see it in your head. But it's the only thing I'm good at, I think, so I have no choice. Yeah. Are we done?
If there is, take like one or two more questions.
One or two more questions.
Hey. What was your thoughts on Silent Hills getting canceled? And what did you think of that game?
I thought about it. I don't care, I guess. I would love to see Guillermo del Toro doing a horror game, but I would rather see him making more stuff on his own. I don't like Hideo Kojima, so did somebody gasp? Yeah, dude, I was one of those dudes, you know, I was one of those Hideo Kojima fucking, you know, just, oh man, everything is so cool, it's funny, but but until I got to, I think around Snake Eater was like, I'm just like, I hate this storytelling. It's so goddamn pretentious, so convoluted does not mean intelligent. It's just convoluted. I hate the acting. I hate I can't do it. I might go back in for Metal Gear 5 because I hear there's more gameplay and less interference from. It's just all the bullshit. Like, oh no, she's half naked because, you know, she needs the sun to give her energy. I'm like, no, you're just a fucking child, man, and you want to show boobies. And everyone's like, no, there's a reason for it. I'm like, the reason for it is your ball sack. And it's just so pretentious. Dude, I can't do it. The gameplay's great, but no, I can't. I really lost my taste for a lot of Japanese stuff. I just can't. It's just like for baby people. Wrapped up in a lot more words that need to happen, so it sounds smart. Can't do it. Yeah, I'm sorry, dude. I mean, if you love it, I'm jealous because I want to love everything. I'm not one of these people who's like, ugh, I can't wait to hate the next. Like, I want to hate The Visit because it's M. Night Shyamalan, you know? I want to hate it because I fucking hate him. But I want him to make good stuff because I want to see good stuff. What was that show? Wayward Pines. He produced that, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. And I got a couple of episodes in, and I'm like, fuck you, M. Night Shyamalan, you're everything I thought you were. This started with Silent Hills, didn't it? I liked the demo. It was neat. But I think something like what I was talking about, like Soma, is scarier to me because it's an idea versus, and now there's a spooky baby writhing in the sink, and then now something's shaking its head real fast, and I'm like, that shit's weird in a nightmare way, where you don't know what's going on, but in terms of relating to it, I think it's beautiful imagery, but it doesn't scare me. I just look at it on like the design level. Not a whole lot scares me. I wish I have a friend who, she can't watch a horror movie, any horror movie, terrible horror movies. Like Drag Me to Hell. It's a funny movie, you know? But she watches stuff through like, and I'm jealous because I'm like, I miss that feeling. I want to be scared by stuff. But I've seen so much that I'm like too aware of the mechanics of horror versus stuff that's upsetting. I think I'm more scared by conceptual stuff, something where there's an idea behind it versus there's a guy chasing you and he's like got a knife, and I'm like, so what? He's gonna kill you. That's peaceful sounding, you know? Yeah.
I have a question. Earlier you mentioned you like the storytelling aspect of your job. Is there an artist or a creator that you would like to collaborate with?
An artist or collaborator that I'd like to work with? Like a visual artist? Like an artist?
Like if you could pick someone like this from either medium to do something that was going to be like important and personal to you, who would you choose? Would you choose someone to illustrate for you, or would you have someone?
I'd have someone illustrate. There's stuff that I don't think I should draw. There are certain things that, if it was something a little bit more serious and there was supposed to be characters that had a far more human appearance, where you're supposed to connect with someone on a more emotional level, I think I would rather have somebody do that rather than me draw my goofy little stick figure kind of people. But no name is coming to mind right now.
Well, like, what would it look like? Like if you were, because I've always felt like there's a story in you somewhere that you're not touching. And like, what would that look like in your head? Like if you're going for something that was uniquely personal, that you felt like maybe you couldn't draw it. Like, I mean, I'm not talking personal, like some sad, crazy story about your alcoholic past or something like that, but like something that you felt really passionately, importantly about. What would that be? What would it look like? You know, I mean, it's a tough question to kind of pull out of left field like that, but it's like there has to be a thing that you feel like you can't draw that you might like to tell someday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
Almost everything these days.
So what would be like top one, top two? What comes in your head a lot? You go like, I can't touch that right now because I can't draw it,
right?
Or tell people what it would look
I mean, for the past, I don't know how long. I've told you a couple of things, stories that are not funny. They're just almost everything that I come up with these days is not funny.
I tell you, it's like it's very. I feel kind of like you're all kind of get cheated sometimes because he's a great storyteller. Like sitting there and telling you a story, you can see everything in your own head, but in your own way. It's filtered through your own thing, but he tells very complete stories. So I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt that.
Yeah, in terms of who I'd like to work with, I have plenty of friends. Like, I love that I'm working with Aaron again, but in terms of the stuff, like, bigger, heavier stuff, I don't know. I think that's part of it. I kind of lock up. I don't know who I would... It'd have to be someone that I'm not just, like, hiring. It has to be someone that I'm, like, connecting with on some level. I don't know. I don't really have a good answer for that. I'm sorry.
You pretty much just touched on it.
Oh, where's that coming from?
Very short. You pretty much just touched on it, but I was wondering if you ever thought about doing something maybe deeper, like existentialist.
Oh yeah.
You pretty much just mentioned it.
Oh yeah. Almost all of it. Almost all of the stuff that I've come up with has to do with my actual life. Then everything I've done pretty much starts with me, and then wrapped in some layer of absurdity. Versions of yourself that actually act out things that I think that, when I think that make me feel like a horrible person, like, oh God, I wish I didn't think that, but I do. Putting them into a character that does do these things and live out a version of your life that you could easily have turned into if you didn't have a little bit of common sense. You know, there are stories that I haven't done that deal a lot more with, like, relationships, and then are warped into something that aren't as boring as that sounds. You know, I'd always have to have some fantastic element for me to want to do it. I don't want to just do a comic that is my straight life, because I live that, and I'm fucking bored of it. Yeah, and almost all of it is usually on the existentialist tip of things. Hopefully handled with a touch of humor so that it's not just, you know, like dripping with gloom. Because I can't help it. Everything that I do, there just has to be, like, even when I myself am feeling horrible, there always has to be some element of making fun of it. Once that goes away, then I'm screwed, you know? I don't like being, this makes me a bad person, I don't really like being around people who are being negative in a way that isn't amusing to me. I'm bad around people who just feel bad but aren't aware of how stupid it is to completely absorb all of that and not be aware of some goofy, you know, humorous element of it. It sort of becomes a fundamentalist bad mood as opposed to something that I can relate to. Yeah, I don't do well around people that don't have a sense of humor. I get weird around them because I think that there's something broken about them. You have to have a sense of humor to be able to cope with being alive, because being alive is a terrifying and horrible thing. Because I don't know what it means, you know? I'm looking at a sea of people who are all just, I'm assuming, alive like I am, you know? It's fucking scary how disconnected I am from every single person on the planet. And I trust that you're real like me, you know? And you think, oh my God, I'm that to everyone else, you know? And that's funny. It's crazy. Did someone say that that's really sad?
We have one more, I think, last question coming up over here.
Oh, last question.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit bad about how inane it's going to be, but my question is, so I was on the edge of my seat when you were live tweeting playing the new Animal Crossing game. I just want to know, did you ever take your revenge on
That got really existentialist, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Because Animal Crossing is really fucking bleak. It's one of the bleakest games ever made. You play Animal Crossing?
I love Animal Crossing.
Okay, but why do you love it?
I like
my friend Jenny was
collecting, and it's cute.
Yeah, she loved my friend. This is my friend.
And the customization.
Yeah.
Like making your own house and designing.
Now, do you like doing that stuff in real life?
No.
You don't?
I mean, like, Not a lot. Not as much as I played Animal Crossing.
Yeah. Animal Crossing, it's addictive until you get to the point, till I got to the point where I was like, oh my god, I am playing a game where I do things that I do in real life. I owe Tom Nook. I'm like in debt. I owe him so much, and I'm working to the point where I can get to the next bigger house or the next biggest upgrade on the house, and you owe money, and the game starts off, and you're like, how do I get money? And you're shaking trees for bells, and you're like punished for it. You're like attacked by bees, and you're just trying to pay your rent. It's a game where you're trying to pay your rent, and you're like going through the dumpster. You're like, oh, I found a couch in the dumpster.
Yeah, no, I played like every day for a year. And I loved it. And then I left because I had like too much work to do or something. I came back and my favorite villager had moved out. And I got really sad. And I kept trying to play, and I did have a moment where I was like, what am I doing? I played this every day. Don't I have better things to do?
Right. Every game that I play has to have some element of, it has to make it worth my awareness of how much of my life I'm wasting. I'm never unaware of it, but I'm like, yes, I'm wasting my time, but this is badass, you know? I cannot go out, I mean, I could go outside and do some of the stuff that I do in some of these games, but I shouldn't. But it has to be worth it. So like something like Animal Crossing to me is like, why am I doing this?
I think there's probably a little bit of self-loathing involved.
Yeah?
To just sit there and play it forever.
I don't like to.
I don't know. I mean,
that's a different.
Like a little bit. Like you hate yourself in a funny way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've definitely had gaming sessions where I just felt disgusting. I felt where it went past the point of this has gone too far. Where I'll be playing, I'll do a raid or something with my friends, and they'll call me up and be like, hey, we're doing a raid in Destiny, you want to jump on? And I'm like, yeah, it sounds like fun. And then like 5 hours later, I'm like, I hate my friends, and my life is emptiness. But I got that exotic rifle that means nothing, you know? Yeah, those are the bad times. Those are the bad gaming times. But those are less frequent now, even though I do play a lot of games.
Yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up now. So.
Thank you for sitting through this, everybody. Thank you.
So we're gonna have Joan will be signing books over at the SLG table, which is 102, all the way along that wall to the front in just about 15 minutes or so, and you'll be there for a bit.
Hey, man.